Hello and welcome to another episode of the Pace and Space podcast. My name is Sean Barnard here with Sam Oshtry on PickSwap Media, and we got a lot to break down in the NBA today. The season has hit its full stride. The All-Star break is in the rearview mirror, and the playoff standings are beginning to get established. So we're going to dive into the biggest takeaways from the recent stretch of games. Joel Embiid is back on the floor. Jonathan Kuminga showing some signs of life. The Pistons and Spurs having one of the best games of the regular season earlier this week that I do want to touch about, as well as some updated top rankings for where these teams and where these players do stack up amongst the rest of the league. So before we dive into everything, Sam Oshtry, how are we doing on this fine, what do we got? Wednesday here. How are we doing on this fine Wednesday?
Yeah, a Wednesday record for us because we got the Sixers wrap-up show after every Sixers game with us two brace on 97.5 The Fanatic, which is taking up Tuesdays, Thursdays. So our schedule is going to be all over the place. So we're going on a Wednesday, maybe once, twice a week moving forward. And then once the playoffs hit, we'll be on a whole bunch. But I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Let's talk some hoop.
Yeah, so we got a back-to-back next week. I think they're Tuesday, Wednesday. So we're going to be adjusted on the fly a little bit. But nonetheless, we are going to keep on cruising. And while we did dive a little bit deeper into the overall matchup, but the Sixers, a business-like victory over the Indiana Pacers last night. The final score finishing 135-114. The Sixers just blowing them out the water in the second half. Really in that second quarter is where things broke open, outscoring them 45-27. But nice to see Joel Embiid back on the court. He finished with 27 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists there. Tyrese Maxey up to his usual stellar play, 32 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists. Flirted with the triple-double, and if he had to play a little bit more minutes, I think he probably would have got there yesterday. And VJ Edgecombe as well with 23.7 boards and 4 assists of his own. What were your thoughts on last night's matchup?
You just saw the impact of Joel Embiid, and we know what it is. We've seen it enough over the last decade and over the last few years as he's gotten to this MVP level. But you kind of forget sometimes when he misses games and the Sixers start losing and all the complaining happens. But you were reminded of how great he is and his gravity as an offensive player. And that what I mean by that is how much he creates for Tyrese Maxey. Like Tyrese Maxey didn't have the best shooting night last night, 10 for 22, 2 for 8 from 3. But his shots were so much more open than what we've seen over the last few games. And that's just because of the gravity of Joel Embiid and how much defensive attention he commands, where there's not a lot of other players in the league. When he's doubled, even just like sometimes you'll notice, and these players are in the gaps when Joel Embiid has the ball, either at the top of the key or maybe at the elbow extended, and they're just a little inching more towards the gap, and he can make a quick pass to Kelly Oubre, who can drill a corner 3. It's just these guys have to play more in the gap. They have to be more focused on the presence of Embiid, and that creates so many opportunities for everybody else. Maxey, Edgecombe, Kelly Oubre, all these guys, and that's what we saw and what we were reminded of last night, even against a really bad team.
Yeah, 100% there. You still got to beat who's in front of you, and that's exactly what they did. We did dive deeper into the takeaways from that matchup in last night's Sixers wrap-up with Sean Brace, powered by 97.5 The Fanatic. You can check that on each of our socials, as well as on the YouTube, on the Gambler Gang YouTube, and plenty of other places as well. So we do want to move on a little bit from there, but very great to see Joel Embiid back on the floor and looking like himself. This did not feel like a situation where he kind of was kicking off rust at the rate, which is sometimes the case when he does return from absences as well. So 2 big matchups against the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics to close down this week. Nice to have him back for those and looking in full form. So to transition a little bit and bounce around the NBA, some more action that I did want to highlight from last night. We don't got to dive too deep on this one, but Jonathan Kuminga, I did want to give a little bit of shout out to and see a reaction against the Washington Wizards last night, a 119-98 victory by the Atlanta Hawks. That Kuminga played 24 minutes of action, scored 27 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 75% from the floor. Is there hope that Jonathan Kuminga may just be the guy that everyone always hoped he would be in a new location?
I'm not going to overreact to one game like that. It was a good game, 27 points in 24 minutes, 3 for 4 from 3, which was impressive. This is a guy who shot 32% or worse from 3 over the last couple of years. And that's really why the Warriors have been so upset with him. And he's become unplayable for them in lineups with Jimmy Butler, Draymond, and those guys, because he's a non-shooter and he's never developed a reliable three-point shot. So that 3 for 4 from 3 was impressive. I'm not going to overreact to one game, but this is what we've seen from him when he's got opportunity for the Warriors, even when things were so, I guess, fractured between the Warriors and him and his relationship with Steve Kerr. He still would get sporadic chances and he would ball out in those chances. It was either because Jimmy Butler was hurt, Steph was hurt, for whatever reason, they needed him to insert him in the lineup, even after he fell out of the rotation, and he was great. Think about last year's playoff series when Jimmy Butler went down. He stepped in and he was great in that playoff series against, I believe it was the Wolves, the one they lost with all those injuries. But whenever he's had the opportunity, he's been able to score effectively because he's such a good downhill driver. He's a great athlete. He has pretty good mid-range game, but it's not efficient enough where you're comfortable with him shooting enough of them. So he was great last night. I'm not going to overreact to it. Part of it, too, is Jalen Johnson went out early. He only played 6 minutes. He with a hip injury, I think it was, or back, something like that. But he left early in the game, and that gave Jonathan Kuminga even more on-ball reps because Jalen Johnson's the guy who's initiating, and he's the primary ball handler and creator, and he does a great job creating for others. So you saw even more Jonathan Kuminga initiation, creation because of Jalen Johnson's absence for most of that game. But it was a great Jonathan Kuminga game, but I'm not going to overreact to one game.
Yeah, no, totally fair. I'm a guy that does kind of take Steve Kerr's word when it comes to analyzing a talent right there. So I was a Jonathan Kuminga guy with him coming into the NBA. My taste on him has certainly soured as the past couple of years have gone down. I think both parties are equal as far as the Warriors, that I think they did a really bad job incorporating him and really did not give out the necessary effort to bring him in to where he can impact winning. But at the same time, when you're Jonathan Kuminga, when you are this high-level athlete, you got to kind of buy into the role a little bit as well. And I don't think he did a good job of that either. So I do think both parties are better off without each other. It's nice to see a fresh slate. But I'm with you on not exactly overreacting to one game. Now, later on in last night's game, we did have an interesting ending to the Lakers matchup. Luka Doncic looked to me like he had a clear look at a three-pointer for the win. Ultimately passed it off to LeBron James, who did a little turnaround fadeaway of his own, which did not land. What were your thoughts on the way that game went down and really that final possession?
Yeah, the Lakers sold it, and the Lakers have not been playing good basketball. They've lost, they're 11 and 12 in the last 30 and 23 games, and they've lost 4 of their last 6. This is just a team not playing good basketball right now, and that was a must-have win against a flailing team in the East. Magic are playing better. They've won 6 of 8, but still not a great team in the East at home. And the Lakers were up in that game in the fourth quarter, and they just blew it. It was really back and forth towards the end of the game. JJ Redick draws up a great ATO coming out of timeout with, what was it, 6 seconds left or something. Gets Doncic a great catch and shoot opportunity. It was deep for sure, but still a great catch and shoot opportunity. He takes a dribble. He's still even. It was somewhat contested, but he took a dribble and he still could have got it off. Yeah. Unlike Luka Doncic, I mean, we've seen him step up and want the ball in his hands and hit clutch shot after clutch shot throughout his career, mostly with the Mavs. So it was really unlike him, but I guess he saw that the Magic were overhelping a little bit, and they were leaning off LeBron, so he dished it to him, and it was just a bad look, but uncharacteristic play from Luka.
Yeah, that was the point that I was going to bring up is I thought even after he did take the dribble, he still had to look at it. And there's some guys, and I think Luka falls in this category of are more comfortable shooting off the dribble than off the catch and shoot. James Harden's is a guy that certainly pops to mind of that. And Luka, I think, fits that category. He still had that look. Now, granted, Luka is a capable catch and shooter. Absolutely. There's no doubt that he could knock down that shot straight up. It very much surprised me to see him pass up. It was very un-Luka Doncic-like that we've seen this guy step to center stage, want all the smoke, want those big-time shots. I was really surprised to see him sort of run away from it. And LeBron, I thought all the quotes were a little interesting post game with LeBron just basically kind of chalk it up to you got to ask Luka. I thought he was going to take the shot.
Classic LeBron answer, by the way, which is true what he's saying. And JJ Redick even was a little confused too. I think everyone was confused because it was not like Luka, but classic LeBron answer.
Yeah, no, big time there. But the Lakers certainly trending in the wrong direction a little bit. And you were kind of on this from the start about their defensive concerns being something that you thought was going to catch up to them. I think we have seen that a bit in recent weeks. I do not think that was the cause of last night's loss in particular, but I think the overall point does still stand. Where's your level of concern and panic with this Lakers team moving forward?
They have no chance of winning a first-round series, none. And that's where we're at. And I've kind of thought that for a little bit, just how deep the West is. Their defense is terrible. I mean, it's terrible. Yeah. And you can say they haven't had a lot of continuity with the roster, especially with their top 3 guys like LeBron, Austin Reeves, and Luka have only played 10 to 12 games together, whatever it is this season. So those guys haven't got a lot of time on the floor together. They're now all healthy. They all played together finally last night. Austin Reeves is back and playing at a good level. their defense is just terrible with those guys on the floor. 24th ranked defense in the NBA. You can't win playoff matchups like that. They have no center. They don't have a trustworthy center. And DeAndre Ayton was great last night. He had 21 points, but he's still not a guy that you want to go into playoff series with where you can count on night in and night out, both from a rim protection standpoint, from a rebounding standpoint, and just his offensive production as a rim runner. Like he's just not a guy that you trust in those situations. So they're not going to, if they play the Wolves or play the Nuggets or Rockets, these are huge teams who have so much size in their front court and can pound the offensive glass and make the Lakers pay that way, already against a bad defense, and get extra plays out of the offensive glass. So this team is just too poor defensively. And then offensively, we know Luka's an incredible engine. Austin Reeves is great. LeBron can still be great offensively in stretches when he's not playing defense. They don't have enough surrounding them. Like, I like Rui Hachimura a lot as a player. I said DeAndre Ayton I don't like. Look at their bench. Remember last year how much we and everybody got on JJ Redick for only playing 5 guys in the second half of a playoff game for the first time in NBA history, not playing a single bench player? That seemed crazy, but it's because they didn't have a bench and they really have a reliable center. What are you going to play? Jackson Hayes serious minutes in a playoff series? Marcus Smart has been fine. Jared Vanderbilt was actually decent tonight. These aren't guys you feel comfortable with going in a playoff series. You don't have a bench. This is just the Lakers have punted on the season, and that was honestly their plan coming in. I think they know LeBron James is not going to be on this roster next year unless he accepts a really tiny contract, which would be unlike LeBron throughout his career. This is just, all right, we're gearing up towards 2027. We're going to offer Austin Reeves a ton. We got Luka coming back. We signed him to an extension, and we're gearing up with a ton of cap space and a ton of room for mobility in the summer of 2027. This is a punted season for the Lakers, and this team just isn't equipped, both roster-wise, defensively-wise, to win a single playoff series. Like, look at the matchups. Who would they beat?
No, I think you're right. When you dive down and think about how stiff the competition in the West is and how good all these teams are, there's not a single team that you mentioned there that I would make the argument that I believe in the Lakers in this. And when they are constructed the way they are, which is so dependent on scoring the basketball, that with Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic and LeBron James at this stage of his career being very much an offense-first player, that he does not carry the same level of two-way impact that has been the case for most of his career, the margin for error is so slim to beat these teams that you basically have to be this hyper-efficient offense for every minute of a game to be able to go toe-to-toe. Yeah. When you are a hard-nosed team, like the Houston Rockets are a team that certainly have their flaws as far as offensive creation, clutch time offense. That's a team that is going to be a nightmare to actually eliminate from playoff series because they're going to make life difficult on every single possession. They're going to defend at a crazy high level. They're not going to let up for a single second. So the pathway to them actually, winning playoff games to me is much clearer, even if you can make the case that the top end of talent of this Lakers team is far superior. I just think defense wins out in playoffs like that, and that's the exact category that the Lakers are missing.
The only matchup I can see the Lakers actually benefiting from is the Rockets. And yeah, they have so much size, but they're not as much of an offensive rebounding threat without Steven Adams, who's obviously out for the year. And where the Lakers actually have the advantage is clutch games. Lakers have been great in the clutch, which was last night was a really rare clutch loss for them. Either they get killed by really good teams or they kill teams. They haven't played that many clutch games, but in the ones they have, 16-4 in the clutch, one of the better clutch offenses in the NBA. And you compare that to the Rockets, who are 14-16 in the clutch, one of the worst clutch offenses in the NBA. That's a matchup where if you can keep games close up until the final 5 minutes, I think the Lakers would have an advantage. But like, how would they get there? The Lakers, I guess actually if the Rockets are the 3 seed right now, which they are, and Lakers are the 6 seed, so they would match up right now. I don't think that's going to last those stands. I can see the Rockets slipping a little bit. I can't see the Lakers getting higher than a 6 seed. I don't think they're going to get lower than a 6 seed, but it's hard to imagine they're going to beat out like the Wolves or the Nuggets, who are 5-4 right now, the rest of the way. So I think the Lakers are locked into that 6 seed, and we'll see who shakes up for the 3 seed. If it is the Rockets, that's the best matchup. Nuggets, Wolves, that might be.
I give them a puncher's chance.
We saw the Wolves last year.
Yeah, I give them a puncher's chance against the Wolves. I still probably would pick Minnesota, but like that's a team that I can sort of see the angle of like, the Gobert success that Luka has had getting him on an island.
Well, everyone said that last year. Then what happened? They killed him.
I mean,
too much size up front. Lakers couldn't get a stop defensively. They didn't have any bench. All those concerns last year. What was it, a 4-5 game series, I think? Or did they sweep them? It was 4 or 5.
I think 5.
Yeah, they got it. Was a gentleman's sweep. The Wolves killed them that whole series. pretty much the same teams for both ways. I don't see a way. And Austrians was hurt, and he was terrible that series, but he was hurt. So I think he would have a better series, but maybe they push it to 6. It's more competitive this year. I don't see any way the Wolves will lose that.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, looking at the Western Conference standings right now, the Rockets sit in 3rd place, 8 games back from 1st. The Nuggets are also 8 games back. The Lakers are 9 games back, and the Timberwolves are 9 games back. So still kind of a cluster there that's going to sort itself out. Still a lot of basketball to be played, meaningful basketball down the stretch of the season. My last point.
Where you at with Luka and the refs right now?
That's what I was about to bring up right here.
Oh,
I do think it's time for that conversation. I'm not here to say Nico Harrison has been vindicated or that anything to that level yet. But it's an all-time bad, man. He's a tough watch. Like, he's annoying to watch. He's shooting free throws, arguing at the referee. Like, it feels like it's far surpassed. Like, that's like his primary goal of basketball games is just to get on refs and yell at them. It's like distracting to watch him play for that very reason. And I do think like there's no positives that come out of this in any regard.
A part of me has been theorizing lately that he just needs to be mad at someone to get himself up, or else he kind of just gets bored in basketball games. Think about if it's another player, like he hates the Suns going at Devin Booker. Sometimes fans who are courtside at certain games will chirp, and he'll find ways to be mad at them, even though they probably didn't say anything that bad. Refs obviously gets really angry. I feel like he just needs to be mad and angry to get himself going and play as well as he's capable of. But you're right, it is unbearable to watch right now. It's every single possession, make or miss. Even if you get fouled, it's you're bitching about the last play, Luka. It's every single possession. And it's like these refs are better at their jobs than almost every coach in the NBA, almost every player in the NBA. And we like to give refs a hard time, but we only talk about the refs after terrible games. And it's like, oh, they were terrible night. The refs have been awful. How often is that? It happens for sure. They have bad calls. They have bad games. How often is that? Not very often. If we talk about the refs after every good, oh, yeah, let's start our Sixers postgame show. Sixers-Pacers last night. Hell of a job by the refs. Great crew. Zach Zarba was leading that crew. He always does a good job. Let's analyze this call, this call. They do a great job. You just only hear about them in the bad moments. And so for Luka to bitch at them every single call, like they're getting all these wrong, maybe 5% of these calls that Luka's complaining about, maybe 5-10% of all calls in a game did they actually get wrong. So someone has to get in his ear. And JJ Redick was supposed to be the guy who's going to be hold him accountable. This was a new organization. He was motivated after everything that happened with the Mavs, and people claimed he can't be held accountable. So it was, all right, now's the opportunity for people to hold him accountable and say, this is distracting you. You're not running back on defense. Your energy and focus is more absorbed with the refs than anything going on the court. It's like these guys are doing a good job. They're actually getting way more calls right than wrong. The majority of the calls right than wrong. And they're better at their jobs than a lot of these coaches are. They probably have a higher hit rate on their decisions than coaches do on their decisions. And you talk about players, they do a better job than the players a lot of the time. Everyone's entitled to a bad game, bad play, bad decision. That happens. The refs do a great job. I can't believe I'm the guy now defending refs. Whoever wants to be that guy, but it's true, and it's gotten so annoying with Luka where I've had to defend the refs. They're good at their jobs. Run back on defense and stop bitching.
And Luka gets the benefit of the doubt calls like pretty frequently. Like
he gets a superstar whistle for sure, undoubtedly.
Absolutely, he absolutely does. My solution to this is if I'm referees, I'm just teeing them up all the time. It's insane, the lack of technical fouls. Guess how many he has on the season this year? I just looked it up.
18?
5. He has 5 technical fouls this year.
That's crazy.
Like, that's crazy. Like, he should be getting one like every game, basically. And referees just need to step up and start doing
I think refs have really thick skin. They're actually pretty good at
not
finding technicals. Where we've seen Nick Nurse berate officials. Like Joey Crawford back in his day, he was always going to give a quick tech. These officials do not give out technicals frequently. They have really thick skin. They hear a lot. You have to. Some will have a quick one if they just don't want to lose control of the game. But for the most part, they're not handing them out quick.
No, and I kind of think they should. Like for Luka specifically, it actively takes away from the game. Like it's seriously distracting to watch a Lakers game at the rate that he's just having conversation and yelling at referees. That shouldn't be acceptable. Like play basketball, dude. And when he's riding the refs to that rate, That's the only solution that's going to work. Like, you want to talk about accountability, I kind of think it's got to come from the referees that don't put up with this. Throw him out of basketball games. Like, do that. If he's crossing a line, which who knows exactly what he's saying in these conversations, but at just the rate that he's discussing, and he can be as polite as he wants. It's insane the level that he is complaining right there. And something should be done about that. So I'm kind of over that aspect of things from Luka. I don't really think this ever gets cleaned up. This feels like just a career-long thing that he's going to be doing.
It dialed down when he was traded to the Lakers initially. I think everything did. And like same with his conditioning. He was motivated this past summer and he came in really in shape. And he's not out of shape now, but he does lose a little shape and gets less condition, not less conditioned, but his burst isn't as there as season goes on, which is what we've seen for the last few seasons. And his athleticism has dwindled. And you really go back and watch some of this isn't like a huge Luka critique, but there are valid concerns about because he's one of the top 4 players in the NBA. These critiques are fair where can he be a Shea level consistently great player on both ends of the floor? We know Luka will just never be a good defender. It is what it is. He can't be surrounded by other bad defenders too. But the burst and athleticism, which is really what I want to talk about, because that's when you look at his rookie season and his first couple years in the league, this guy was flying to the rim. He was dunking the ball like every few games. He was getting a dunk or two. He had that type of athleticism and burst. And you just never see that now. And he's such a smart player that he doesn't necessarily need it. He can play with such great pace and acceleration, deceleration, and all these things. And a step back is lethal, one of the most dangerous in the game. So he doesn't need that stuff. But it's just it's hard to imagine that was present in his game. And he had that in his bag 5 years ago. And he's only 27 years old. We're not talking about a 33-year-old. And at 27, all of that is just dissipated. It's just hard to imagine.
Can I say something here, Sam Oshtry? I just don't think he's a top 4 player in basketball. I don't think he's that level right now.
Better?
I mean, Jokic is absolutely better.
Jokic, Shea, Giannis. I'll give you those 3.
Jokic, Shea, Giannis.
No,
I don't want to do it.
Don't do it.
What? There's Joel. What you're thinking I'm going to do?
No. I think you're going to say someone else, and I'm telling you not to do it.
Anthony Edwards, I think, has a place in that conversation.
I thought you were going to say Wemby. I was about to blow a casket. I thought you were going to say Wemby.
Wemby is a better basketball player than Luka Doncic. Victor Wembanyama is a better basketball player than Luka Doncic.
He's simply not. Luka is still one of the best. And look, the reffing, the conditioning, referee stuff, defense, all that. He is such a great offensive engine. I mean, way better than Giannis or Shea even as an offensive engine. That it's not even close to what Wemby could ever be, honestly.
But Luka's like such a negative defensively, like beyond. It's gotten worse.
Conversation all the time. If you're that great offensively, even if you're bad defensively, you're still such a net positive, which is what he is, and every metric will show that he's such a net positive on the court because of how great he is offensively. That negates a lot of the bad defense.
He's absolutely net positive. I'm not arguing that. He's still a good basketball player. But, like, I think Wemby and him are very contrasting styles here. Victor Wembanyama will always be a net positive. He could score 0 points per game, and he's a net positive because he's that level of the defender.
But Luka will be, too, because he's that great offensively. He'll always be. I'll always value what you can bring offensively more than defensively because there's easier ways to kind of, like, hide and mask it defensively.
I think Wemby's an exception to the rule here, that like he's a level of special defensively that you can't replicate. There's not a single player there's not a single human being on this planet that can impact the game defensively the way Victor Wembanyama can. And if we're going to chalk it up to equal for his defensive impact versus Luka Doncic offensive impact, Wemby's a significantly better offensive player than Luka is defensively.
The Spurs have done a great job surrounding Wemby with the perfect catch and shoot players, trio of guards, backup center, like everything. This is a perfect roster. You put, other than the fact that it's young, you put Wemby on the Lakers, they're not even close to as good as they are right now, and they don't have near as many wins. Of course, it changes the complexion of the team. You're better.
Yeah,
defense,
but you
worst
just
offense.
said
You're not 34-23 if you put Wemby with the Lakers. You're not. You're maybe one of the worst offenses in the NBA.
But you just talked about how this team has 0 chance to win a playoff series right now. You don't think with Victor Wembanyama they would? Because I do.
No, I think they'd be worse. I think neither scenario you have a chance to win a playoff series, but I think they would be worse. I don't think they'd be 34-23 or with any chance of winning a playoff series if they had Wemby instead of Luka.
So if you were to switch places, just Victor Wembanyama and Luka Doncic right now, and we're talking about Wemby's second best player, probably De'Aaron Fox. I mean, Stephon Castle in my mind, like, is the guy I find my eyes drawn to every time I watch the Spurs. But if we're gonna talk about those as his supporting cast, how much better is that really than the Lakers? Like, I love each of these guys individually. If we're talking about Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic, like, I think to some extent, you can put the blame on this, whether you want to do coaching scheme, whatever the case. I don't think the gap in talent outside of those guys is that notable.
Like if you're going like the 2 through 4, LeBron, Austin Reeves, like Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox, whatever, sure. But this Spurs team is phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah.
Devin Vassell had 28 points the other night against the Pistons and led the team in scoring. Like that's not even one of their best players. It's just the roster is remarkably better. Maybe not the 2 through 4, but up and down. Like Harrison Barnes has been moved to the bench, but he's still a great catch and shoot player. Obviously, Keldon Johnson's one of the 6 Man of the Year candidates. Then Dylan Harper, great as a rookie. Darren Fox, obviously, usually an all-star. Stephon Castle, like Luke Cornett, is a great backup. This is just like perfect roster. It's not necessarily about the 2 through 4. It's about the 1 through 9. And this 1 through 9 on the Spurs is so much better than the Lakers.
Kawhi Leonard's also better than Luka Doncic. Yep.
You got 5 seconds of me frozen. Like I can't say, can I get a full season of Kawhi Leonard? This has been as close to it as you'll ever get, and he still won't be in the playoffs, which is pretty upsetting. Last season, you had a great second half of the season of Kawhi Leonard. I'm still taking Luke on my team because of the availability. But you could argue Kawhi's having a better season than Luka for sure.
Yeah, I think he absolutely is.
Like Luka's we can't discount how insane of an offensive engine he is, both as a scorer for himself and as a creator for everybody else. He is unbelievable. And Kawhi's not like that because Kawhi doesn't have that step back 3 to his game. Kawhi's not the finisher he is at the rim. He can't get to his spots as easily as Luka. Like Giannis isn't the offensive engine that Luka is. I think Shea and Jokic are, and that's really it across the league. Anthony Edwards is a great two-way player. There's nights where Anthony Edwards scores 20 points and the Wolves still win because he's a great team around him. Luka scores 20 points. He only scored 22 last night. They have no chance of winning. He has to do everything for that team right now offensively, and it's because he's such a great offensive engine.
I mean, for what it's worth, they did have a chance at winning last night, and the very man himself elected not to shoot that 3-pointer. So
yeah, they actually had a pretty good defensive. I mean, the Magic's offense is terrible, but they were pretty good defensively. That was a subpar offensive performance for the Lakers, and mostly because Luka didn't have a great shooting night and only scored 22.
Fair. All right, we'll move on from the Luka Doncic conversation from now, but I do want to stick on the San Antonio Spurs a bit with Victor Wembanyama. That Spurs-Pistons game is one of the best regular season games of the season, and I do think there's a chance that is an NBA Finals preview. Now, Sam Oshtry rejects that point entirely, that he does not believe in the Spurs team whatsoever, thinks they're too youthful, don't have the experience to make a playoff run. That wasn't a matchup that changed your mind at all, huh?
No, it wasn't. The Spurs are really impressive, but the Pistons are a particularly easy matchup for them and a lot of teams, which is why I'm worried about them in the playoffs because they're playing Asar Thompson a ton of minutes, Ron Holland a ton of minutes. What do some of these guys have in common? And there's others throughout the roster. Can't shoot. That makes the matchup so much easier for the Spurs when you can put Wemby on them and he can kind of play ghost coverage when you just don't guard that player on the perimeter. And there's ways to counteract that, use them as a screener, dunker spot, sometimes even as a ball handler. But when you have like a Cade who you want to be your engine and want the ball in his hands a lot, and Jalen Duren and some of these other guys, it's hard to put those guys on the wing and play them when Wemby's on the floor because Wemby can just be served as a roamer. And he was just controlling the paint. I mean, he cut the entire floor in half. Cade had a really hard time scoring at the rim. Entire Pistons had a really hard time scoring at the rim. Wemby had 5 blocks, but forget the 5 blocks. Every shot at the rim was deterred when Wemby was on the floor. But that's an easier matchup because of the fact that the Pistons implore a lot of non-shooters. When you go and play the Thunder or the Nuggets or the Wolves, whatever it is, you can't really do that. And that's a complete different calculation. And I think there's ways that we've seen other teams do sometimes to draw Wemby away from the basket or play a bunch of shooters on the floor. And so that's the formula to counteracting Wemby's presence defensively. And I just think a lot of teams are going to figure that out in the way the Pistons can't, just because of the roster. And we can talk about the Pistons in a second, but that's some of the concerns with the Pistons.
Yeah, I think the lack of offensive creators is definitely a factor. It's a huge bummer to me the way the whole Jaden Ivey thing worked out. And that was a guy who I believed in coming out of college and I thought showed some legitimate promise. And it's even sadder to hear him say things like, I'm not the guy that I was.
That guy's broken mentally. He's lost all his confidence.
Big time. And I do think it's like good he's getting a fresh start, but I kind of had the vision that he would be this secondary creator for this Pistons team. And obviously that did not work out. I understand why they had to move on, but they don't really have a better option to that. Tobias Harris is not that guy. Asar Thompson is not that guy. Like Dennis Schroeder was playing real minutes for this team. Like even like what's the dude's name? The shooter, the dude that got himself, Malik Beasley. Like he was so necessary for this postseason run last year. And I like what Duncan Robinson brings, and like they have enough guys that they can still piece things together, and they play this brand of toughness that is going to be a really like difficult out for any team that they do face. But that's a real concern. But I will say what I walked away with from that matchup more so than anything is being impressed with the way the Spurs just took the physicality, took the hits, and were not bothered. Victor Wembanyama being thrown to the floor, absolutely roughed up. Some even like dirty stuff kind of going on with like Ron Holland, putting a knee in his calf and things like that. He never blinked. He never complained. The dude just kept working. The thing that I think Wemby deserves a little bit more respect on his name is he is not soft by any means, man. That dude is about the smoke. He wants to get down and gritty. And I think he kind of has that perception because he is this unique looking dude and European dude that's 7'5". But the bottom line is like he is about it. And I think that completely translates to the rest of the Spurs team.
Yeah, Wemby's definitely not soft. I do think there are ways to get kind of under him physically. When you put a smaller defender on him, which is what we've seen a lot of teams do recently in big matchups, because he's still skinny and he's still not the strongest guy in the world, but he's definitely not soft, but by no stretch.
And the Pistons, he puts his hands up. You can body to his chest all you want. You still ain't getting a shot off on most situations.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I'm saying when Wemby's on offense, actually, like when Wemby's on offense, there's ways to guard him and get him away from the basket like that. But you're right. You have to get him to the rim. Doesn't matter. Might be the skinniest guy in the world, but his wingspan is absurd. So you have to get him to the rim or be really efficient in the mid-range. When you talk about playoff series a lot, it's a lot of times we used to talk about them as who has the best player on the floor, who's the best player in the series, and that team will win. And I don't really think that's the case anymore. There's been a lot written about that. Is you want to have the strongest weak link, which means your worst players who are going to play, you want them to be better than the other team's worst players, whether that's 4 through 5 in your starting lineup, your 4th, 5th best player, whether it's guys coming off the bench, whoever it is. And that's kind of a concern with me for the Spurs, where it's not that they have a lot of weak links, but Stephon Castle can't shoot. And there are ways to guard him where that I think he's going to be exposed in a playoff series. And I mean, it's true. Like I do think he is. And even Dylan Harper struggled with his 3-point shot sometimes. Like you're going to see teams when Stephon Castle is off the ball, which you see him sometimes when he's paired with De'Aaron Fox, and even when Dylan Harper comes in, you don't have to guard him. And there's a lot of clips of that out there. If you go through some of the Spurs games, of they just don't guard him and they let him shoot, and he's a really bad 3-point shooter. So there are ways to guard non-shooters, which I just think is detrimental in a playoff series. It's just hard to overcome that.
Stephon Castle would look like Ray Allen if he was on this Pistons team, man. Like he's not a good shooter. I'm trying to get
comparing. I mean, like maybe, but I'm not comparing him to the Pistons necessarily. I'm saying more just how the Spurs stack up to everybody in the league. Like that's going to be a problem for the Spurs.
Yeah, like so he's a 29.5% 3-point shooter. That's obviously not good enough. That's obviously not good enough. I don't care, man. Stephon Castle, that's a dude I'll go to war with. That I find myself every single time I watch him being all in on Stephon Castle. And I wasn't a Castle guy coming out of college, with shooting being a reason, and this like commitment to him claiming he wanted to be a point guard that I never saw in his game. And to his credit, like he's put pride to the side and just adjusted. He's really not the point guard to any extent. That both De'Aaron Fox and Dylan Harper handled the ball at a bit more regular rate when they were on the floor there. I love what Castle is just a bulldog, man. Like he was the difference maker in that game in my mind. He picked Cade Cunningham up full court from like start to finish. We saw Cunningham with the 2-hand shove getting frustrated on him, had 11 assists in the matchup, 16 points. He's just like a terror out there. I'm going to war with Stephon Castle. I do not think that is a weak link whatsoever.
Well, Stephon Castle's awesome, and he's a future All-Star in this league, and he's in his second season. He's already one of the best pick and roll processors in the entire NBA, and it certainly helps when Wemby's setting those screens a lot. But he's been incredible. It's not like that he's a weak link, but that is a weak link the Spurs have that other teams can expose. And the playoffs are just different. The coverages are different. The matchups are different. When the ball is out of his hand, you're going to see it's going to be harder for the Spurs to get in the lane because teams are going to be attacking the Spurs. Teams are just going to be hanging out in the paint and playing this ghost coverage on Stephon Castle. We talk about other teams, and it's just like what teams can. That's what always I look for in the playoffs these days. Like what teams can you not implore that coverage against? What teams can you not just sink in the lane? You see it with the Knicks, we talk about all the time with Josh Hart, and he's shooting the ball well, but teams are still even do it, even when he's shooting the ball well from three. And it's just you have those players out there. It's hard, and teams can dig in a little more defensively, and those gaps become tighter. Even during heightened physicality, your gaps become tighter. It's harder to get to the rim. It's harder to score at the rim because you have a non-shooter out there. It's just it's hard. It's harder to get rolling as an offense. And there are ways to counteract that, and these great coaches figure it out. But that's just something to monitor as we talk about the Spurs as contenders. You know, teams are going to expose that with Stephon Castle a little bit. And he's going to be a future All-Star. His shot will get better. It should better, but he's incredible. But that's a weak link the Spurs have.
Yeah, if that's your non-shooter, you're in a pretty good spot.
For sure. It's not like because he is the ball has the hands. He has the ball in his hands a lot. It's not like a Ron Holland who you don't necessarily want to give like creation reps to.
Yeah, like if you're thinking about the way that like a lot of their rotations are going to be like Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, Victor Wembanyama, and of course like De'Aaron Fox is going to take the floor, who's a capable three-point shooter. I'm not worried about that becoming a significant issue for the Spurs team, but you still are dead set on they have 0% chance of winning a championship this year, correct?
Yeah, and that's more about experience than anything. If this Spurs team had even with those weak links I just said, if this Spurs team had gone through playoff battles together, I could convince myself they would win the West. I could convince myself they'd beat the Nuggets, who are not playing well right now, and certainly the Thunder, who they've dominated during the regular season. You need playoff experience. There's no precedent for it in NBA history. Like, you know how much I rely on NBA history to inform some of my decisions and takes. I just went through it. There's none. Even the Thunder, who are an incredibly young team last year, they went through a battle.
Yeah.
They won a playoff series, and then they lost to the Mavs the year before they won the title last year. So that was a playoff battle that team went together. Wemby, no experience. Stephon Castle, no experience. Dylan Harper, no experience. Yeah, De'Aaron Fox played in one playoff series, never won a playoff series. Harrison Barnes obviously has won a title. But most of these guys, Devin Vassell, I don't believe he's ever played in a playoff series. It's just you need playoff experience. There's no precedent for it in NBA history. Even the young teams had some playoff experience. They went through some battles. They won a playoff series together. Their core guys played in some playoffs. There's no precedent for it in NBA history. They're just too young and too inexperienced.
My only pushback is that there is no precedent for Victor Wembanyama either, Matt. That I do think this dude is a level of special and a level of ready that might supersede a little bit. That it's going to be a bloodbath. The West is going to be incredibly competitive. And by the way, to your overall point here, Lou Dort being able to knock down three-pointers is a massive reason why the Thunder have had the success that they had. That has been the dude that was given ghost coverage. We're going to live and die with can that guy hit threes, and he did it. And Lou Dort deserve credit for that.
To that point, the other guy was Josh Giddey during that playoff run. They weren't guarding him. He was benched for much of that playoff run because other teams weren't guarding him. It was just messed up the Thunder's whole spacing. You know what you do? You trade Josh Giddey, get him out of here. And he was a bad defender too. And Thunder don't like playing guys who can't play defense. But they shipped him out and brought in Alex Caruso, a guy who you can rely on. So yeah, that's kind of how they counteracted that. Is we're not playing these guys who can't shoot or can't defend.
Yeah, and by the way, you mentioned Harrison Barnes being a champion here. I think people forget he was like a real part of that Warriors team.
Absolutely.
Like before Kevin Durant, he was like excellent for that Warriors team, knocking down threes, being a part of it. So I'm it's been nice to see Harrison Barnes get back in like the front page of the league a little bit.
He was great in 2015 for that Warriors championship run. He was terrible in 2016 in that NBA Finals against the Cavs that they obviously lost in 7, which is, I think, a big reason why, of course, you're obviously going to swap KD for Harrison Barnes every day of the week. But I think the Warriors were ready to get rid of him as is because he was bad that series. But you're right. NBA champion was a huge part of that team.
Yeah, 100% there. Now, the last topic that I did want to bring up today has to do with the top players in the NBA. And we kind of teased this topic a little bit earlier on, but the Ringer updated their top 100. And I wanted to approach this a little bit from the outlook of Joel Embiid in his, entirety here. Now, they entered the season, and I used to be a big Ringer fan. I've kind of faded a little bit as they've become increasingly a Joel Embiid hate site. And, I think it's a website that
I think they're more pro Boston than anti Joel.
I think there's a strong overlap in that circle, in that Venn diagram, right there. But they updated their top 100. Now, they started the season with Joel Embiid, I believe, in the 90s, which is just incredibly disrespectful. I understand he's a really difficult guy to rank because of the availability issues. They moved him up, and where he currently is ranked in the league is 34th. What is your initial reaction to that number there?
I don't know how to rank him. I put him top 20 before the season started, just as in 20, just as a good gesture to him because of what he can be when he's fully healthy in his season. And I felt that was too high, and clearly it's been too high this season. When he's on the floor,
20 was too high?
Yeah, of course it was.
Okay, we're going to disagree in this conversation.
When he's on the floor, he's a top, at his peak this season, I didn't think he would ever return to this, but he's a top 10 player. He was playing like that in the middle of January, but then he can't play for 2 weeks at a time, and his team struggles because of it. When I look at these rankings, it's how do you impact your team? That's what matters to me more than anything. And when you're constantly negatively impacting your team because of your availability, then what am I supposed to do with it? The Sixers haven't been above a 7 seed, and maybe this season, I guess you could say a 6 seed over the last 3 seasons, despite having according to you guys, a top 10, 20 player. Yeah. That shouldn't happen. If you're that great, if you're top,
they've been the 1 seed, and they've been a top 3 seed for the larger portion of his career.
That was 4 years ago. I don't care what happened 4 years ago. I'm talking about the last 3 seasons. 5 years ago, James Harden was a top 10 player in the league. Like it's time passes and things change. He hasn't been that just because of his availability. When he's out there, he's obviously a top 10 player. He's that incredible, but you can't rank a guy that high if he's constantly unavailable. Maybe 34 is too low, but he's the most impossible guy to rank in the league. Him and Kawhi Leonard, really, just because you can't count on them to actually play basketball.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, so and by the way, I still give a little bit of credence to what the past is from the standpoint of that's still evidence he can do it in the rate that you're kind of betting on some of these guys to take that lead.
No, but I mean, you get old, you get injured. Like LeBron was the best player in the league 5 years ago. He's not even top 20 now. You get older, you get injured. You can't look at what someone did in the 2021-22 season to inform an opinion now.
Like, for example, Evan Mobley is 23rd on this list right now. That is with the mindset that Evan Mobley is going to improve, that he's going to take a leap. That's a joke that he's the 23rd best player. He's not a top 50 player in the league. He's not. Evan Mobley's not that good at basketball.
He's definitely a top 50 player.
He is not. I could give you a full list of 50.
Was he all NBA last year?
He was Defensive Player of the Year last year.
I know, but was he? I can't remember if he was all NBA. He was definitely an All-Star, though. That's top 24 player in the league. He was an All-Star last year. He's had a lot of injuries and not having his greatest season, but he's been in and out of the lineup. He's still, come on. I mean, top 50 is obviously ridiculous. He's still, I don't know if 23 is the right number, but he's still a top 30-ish player in the league, no doubt.
I still think that's high.
His defensive impact, we just talked about Wemby forever. His defensive impact is still incredible.
There's a monumental gap between Victor Wembanyama and Evan Mobley in terms of defensive impact.
Of course.
The only reason Wemby was a
gap between Wemby, that's because there's a gap between Wemby and literally everybody else who's ever played the game of basketball.
Correct.
Mobley is still a top 3 to 4 defender in the NBA, and the Cavs defense needs him. His numbers are relatively similar last season. His efficiency's down, his three-point shooting's down, but his scoring average is pretty much the same. His assist numbers are actually better. Rebounds are the same. Like he's having not as good efficient as a season, but part of that is because he's been in and out of the lineup and had some minutes restriction he's dealt with, and that's because of the injuries. You act like he's completely fallen off a cliff from last season where he was an all-star.
So I'll use a different. And by the way, I used this joke last night in the post game. But which of Evan Mobley's 2 rebounds was your favorite the past night?
He had like 8 last night. Everybody can have a
Yeah,
2-rebound game.
he did have a 2-rebound game.
I know. I'm saying everybody can have one.
Yeah. I'll use a different player for this example because I think Mobley hits a sore spot. Jalen Johnson, I like Jalen Johnson. He is currently ranked 20th on the list of players. That is with the belief that Jalen Johnson is going to continue to ascend. And I believe that's going to happen. I think that's likely to happen. Is Jalen Johnson better than Joel Embiid right now? The answer to that is no. Like, he's not.
I think Jalen Johnson's a top 20 player right now. I don't think that's just based on his potential. He's a top 20 player right now. He's been
very good.
As a playmaker. We saw it in the 36 games he played last year before he got hurt, but not the playmaking. He has been incredible as a passer in transition. Even when he's playing on a pick and roll, he does everything. And I wish he was surrounded by a better team, and maybe the Hawks will get one of these top picks and they'll have a good future. But Jalen Johnson is a guy you can build around, and he's a building block. Is he better than Joel? Obviously not at Joel's height, but he's more reliable than Joel to play serious minutes. And I do think Jalen Johnson is better than Evan Mobley right now and a top 20 player.
Yeah. By the way, I'm voting Buddy Hield for MVP this season because he has not missed a game. That's kind of what Buddy Hield does. The availability matters so much, so I think we got to put that out there.
That's just so disingenuous. It's relative to the best players in the league. You're not counting on Buddy Hield, but if you're paying a guy a max contract guys, we're going to compare max contract guys to other max contract guys, and their availability matters. Games played is a stat. It matters.
All right, well, I'm going to run down this list with how many guys are actually better than Joel Embiid. We're going to bounce off each other here. Some I'm going to label an absolute joke. I'm just going to say yes or no for some as well. Number 33 on the list.
Before you do, I know you're going to bring him up, but I want to hear it first. Is Tyrese Maxey better than Joel Embiid?
They're right there.
It's such a hard conversation, right? It's such a hard conversation. When we've seen them on the floor together at Joel's peak, it's obvious Joel Embiid's the best player on the floor. But why would you rate Maxey more? Or why would you have him ahead? Because he's more reliable.
He does it at a more regular rate.
Exactly. That's the whole point.
So heading into this, I think they both deserve to be right around that 10-ish range is sort of where my brain enters this conversation to preview things.
But see, what you just did with Maxey, and it's because you love Maxey, which is why you did it, I'm about to do with all of these players. But you can go.
All right, well, let's go down the list. Once again, Joel Embiid ranked 34, and for what it's worth, across his 32 games this season, averaging 26.6 points per game, 7.4 rebounds, 3.9 assists, shooting 49.8% from the floor. Ranked 33 per The Ringer. Derek White. That's an absolute joke. Agreed?
Yeah, obviously at Embiid's peak, yeah. Embiid's better.
Okay.
Yep.
Derek White, I think, is in the overrated conversation as well.
No. He actually, I was actually thinking about this yesterday. I'm doing a Celtics story, a big deep dive. He is underrated. Who was talked about him this season? All you hear about is Jaylen Brown and the Peyton Pritchard would have these 30-point games and go off. And you're like, Jaylen Brown's MVP season. When's Tatum returning? You never hear Derek White mentioned. He has been consistently great when his usage and role has been elevated this year. He has been so important for the second best team in the Eastern Conference this season. He is so underrated.
If I was to ask you over under 39.1% from the field, what is he shooting from the field overall? What would your guess be?
It scares me that you said that, so he's probably under.
He is under. He's shooting 39% from the field this season. 32% from three.
Wait, what is he from three? 32?
32. Yeah.
His efficiency hasn't been there, but his scoring has still been there, and he's playing a different role. They're using him in the pick and roll a lot more than they ever had. He was just a catch and shoot guy before, so his roles had to elevate. So, of course, more volume, more defensive coverage on you. Your efficiency a lot of times will dip, which is understandable, but the scoring is still there. He's still been he's a Celtics second leading scorer on the second best offense in the NBA.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's fine. He's not the 33rd best player in the league.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Julius Randle at 32. I also don't think this one is that close. Joel Embiid is better.
Sure. Like, again, it's hard to do this. Julius Randle, is going to suit up for you and give you it all every single night. You don't know that.
I like Randle. Randle is a hard hat guy. I think I'm more net positive on him than the general perception. I still don't think that one is that close. Karl-Anthony Towns at 31. Get out of here. Karl-Anthony Towns isn't close.
Sure. I'll give you all these. Like we're saying, it's that he's the hardest guy in the league to rank because of his.
For sure.
But sure.
This one also came off offensive to me. Number 30, Jalen Williams on the Oklahoma City Thunder, who's played I don't even know how many games this year and has not been good when he has been on the floor. He was excellent last year, took that leap, was instrumental in their championship run. You got to repeat that, man. That's not a free pass for life. J. Will, get out of here. Or J Dub, my fault.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Number 29, De'Aaron Fox. This one's a little bit interesting to me, but I still think Embiid clears pretty comfortably.
How is that one interesting to you? I got some of those other players above De'Aaron Fox. Like Jalen Williams is better than De'Aaron Fox for sure. Yeah, I'll give you Joel.
Okay. 28, Bam Adebayo. Also kind of a joke to me.
Yeah. He's so disappointing. And I know what he is defensively, but how he's not becomes, I mean, I'm not going to say he should be Embiid or Jokic or Sengun or any of these guys, but how he's just not developed offensively, even the way Jalen Duran is taking a leap this year. I think he's better than Bam Adebayo offensively. Bam's great defensively, but like Bam has just been disappointing. His efficiency is terrible the last 2 seasons now. It's not just a small sample size. And he's just not a guy. He's shooting a little more from 3 and better from 3, but still not a guy you can rely on as this long-range shooter. He kind of kills their offense a lot of times, some of these midi pull-ups. Bam's just been disappointing offensively to me.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. And even like the playmaking that gets talked about, they're not these like advanced reads, man. It's like dribble handoffs or quick short roll stuff. It's like good that you can do that, but it's not anything that like changes how I view you as a basketball player, really.
I actually thought he got much better in the short roll over the last couple of seasons as a decision-making playmaker, but then the Spurs don't use him in that role as much. When they run this spaced out, super fast pace, not a lot of pick and roll offense. So they're not even using him that much in that role.
Yeah, 100% there.
I think it would be great alongside Giannis. I think Giannis would do numbers for his game.
Yeah, and Bam needs like another like enforcer, kind of another physical presence around him. Like I like kind of the Khalil Ware pairing it in certain stretches right there, but I'm with you. I think Bam Adebayo far more underwhelming than he gets talked about there. Another name on this list I think is insane. 27, they have Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen's a great basketball player. They're actively holding him back in Utah right now. I think throwing him anywhere near this high is kind of nuts.
I think Lauri Markkanen's underrated. I think he was a clear all-star this year through the first half of the year. He's been on a tanking team that wants him to be sitting games, but the Jazz are in win-now mode starting next season. And so you're going to see Lauri Markkanen unleashed. And I think he's one of the best offensive players in the NBA. That's not hyperbole. He really is that great. His off-ball movement, his ability to shoot off the dribble, shoot off the move, he's incredible. And I think he's become underrated in a lot of ways because of the situation he's in.
Yeah, the situation definitely matters in this context here. I'm excited to see what Lauri actually looks like on a team with some level of expectations. That like we've seen him play for, the Chicago Bulls, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Utah Jazz, him just kind of having stretches where, he's never been asked to win, and that's certainly been pushed to an extreme as the Jazz have been in tanking mode. Next season is going to be interesting. I like him, the pairing with Jaren Jackson Jr. It's going to be interesting. I'm just holding off on, I don't think it's proper to have him in these types of conversations. I do want to shout out, I love this guy's getting love. Jalen Duren at 26. It's cool that he's this high. He's not better than Joel Embiid.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. And then we get to the top 25. LeBron James.
Yeah, no chance. He's not better than any name you just read right now. LeBron will always be just higher on the list because he's LeBron, which is why he was an all-star this year, even though he didn't deserve to be. But obviously right now, this version of him, he's not better than any of these guys.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's nuts this guy made an all-star game this year. Pascal Siakam at 24.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, if you don't reward Michael Porter Jr. because he's on such a terrible team when he's having a much better season than Pascal Siakam. And maybe part of it is because you wanted to reward Pascal for what he did last year with that Pacers team and that run that they went on. But come on. No.
Yeah, 100%. Your favorite player in the league, Evan Mobley, 23. No chance.
Yeah, sure.
22, Alperen Sengun. I also don't think is that close. Sengun had an awesome start to the season. He's really faded. Feels like his teammates hate him. Defensively, he's been a problem. I still like Sengun overall, that he gives you a little bit more fight than sometimes you get for like that archetype of player. But I don't think he's close to being better than Joel Embiid.
This is a conversation for another day, but I think Ime Udoka, how great he is as a culture guy and getting his guys to play hard and tough, he is just not the offensive coach that some of these other guys in the league are. And I think that's kind of contributed to why we've seen a dip from from Alperen Sengun this season, where he just not put him in positions to be successful. And a lot of times he has to initiate because they don't really have an initiator. And I think Alperen Sengun's another guy who would benefit with a point guard, and they just don't have that. So I think Alperen Sengun is at this level. Like, he's definitely a top 20 player in the league. He's incredible.
Yeah.
But he isn't, and the team isn't putting him in the best situation possible for him to be like one of these Jokic level players.
Yeah. No, I think that is definitely fair there. So that is 19. 18 is James Harden. I think that's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, James Harden has become underrated. He's been incredible. He's been incredible the last 2 seasons. And like he's really completely switched the way he plays going back to when he was in Philly. But yeah, it's probably a little too high.
I did skip Chet Holmgren on accident here. I love Chet. I think he is a guy that's also a little bit underrated. He's not better than Joel Embiid.
Chet, I don't think he's underrated at all. I think sometimes he's overrated.
Really?
Defensively, he's great, but he can be bullied at times. He's better rotating over and help. Offensively, like the last 3 games, they've won 3 straight, the Thunder, but there's no Jalen Williams, no Shea. He's not a guy that you can rely on to consistently create for himself. Other guys have to set the table for him. Last night, 7 points on only 8 shot attempts. When your 2 best players are out, you're supposed to be the 3rd best player. The 2 games before that, 15 or 17 points, 15 points. The game against the Cavs is really great, 17 points, 15 boards. But he just hasn't, like, he needs other guys. He needs to rely on other guys more than I would have thought at this point of his career. And I wanted to see this jump in the absence of Shea and Jalen Williams. But you haven't necessarily seen it. It's been like Casey Moss, Isaiah Joe, Caruso, Lou Dort, the guards and the trio of guards and wings that they have more than it is Chet. So I think he's become a little overrated, a little bit.
Interesting. I think that is actually more of a fair take than I gave it credit. I think defensively he's still pretty special, but he has not stepped up as like a creator or really like shown the desire to do so, which has been a bit surprising to me. So interesting to me that he is that high. I also did skip Denny Advia. I think this one's going to be an interesting conversation. Where does Denny rank in comparison to Joel Embiid for you?
He's having a better year. He's having a better year. So I would put him like, if this is the ranking right now, he's having a better year. And he has a lower back injury right now, so he hasn't played the last couple games, but he's having a better season and he's doing everything for that team. By the way, we should have a Scoot Henderson conversation soon because he's been back and playing well. But Denny has done everything for that team. Drew Holiday has missed serious stretches. Scoot wasn't playing for most of the season. He is the only reason this team is hovering around 500 and going to be in the play-in tournament. So he's having a better season than Joel when Joel had a great 6-week stretch, but that was really about it.
Joel Embiid is a better basketball player than Denny Advia.
He's healthy, but right now it's not crazy to rank this season who's having the better season.
I like Denny. I'm happy to see him get this type of shine. Crazy to me. Another one that's crazy to me, number 17, Scotty Barnes. Get out of here, dude. I don't get the Scotty Barnes stuff. He's a totally fine basketball player. He's a good basketball player. He's not pushing to be in like this elite category the way that people keep trying to make the case for.
He's not a 1A offensively as a creator, but he's probably the best defensive non-big in the NBA. When you think about like the Lou Dorts, Caruso's, OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes is right there with them. He is that great defensively and that impactful defensively, and he can switch on to bigs too. He can really switch 1 through 5. So sometimes there's a little left to be desired offensively because he can never be that guy, like a guy you want to build around. But defensively, he's phenomenal.
Interesting. I mean, fair. He is excellent defensively. To me, he's always going to be like a third fiddle on a winning team. And I think you have to have a really proper roster around him. I don't think that. I
mean, he's the best player. Brandon Ingram's probably the best creator, scorer, offensive player. But you could argue Scotty Barnes is the best overall player on a 5 seed they are now in the East. Like that's a winning. Obviously, they have no real goals to win any title, even a playoff series, I think. But that's a winning team in the East.
Yeah, I mean, fair. We'll move on here. I'm going to zoom through these last couple. 15, Jamal Murray. 16, Devin Booker. 15, Jamal Murray. 14, Kevin Durant. Interesting mix there. I think Joel Embiid clears them all.
Jamal Murray's been I got definitely KD and Jamal Murray have been. I mean, they're having better seasons than that's what this list is, right? It's the updated list that they update every 2 months for who's having the better season this year. Which is why if you're not a factor this season, you're going to be bumped way down the list. So like Tyrese Halliburton's not even on the list because he hasn't played all year. Jason Tatum's not even on the list. So who's having a better season? Jamal Murray and Kevin Durant are having better seasons than Joel Embiid. They are. They were both all-stars.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. This next group also interesting to me.
None
13.
of these players you're about to name are better than Joel Embiid. And we just had the Maxey debate.
Yeah,
You just conceded that Maxey is probably better just because he's having a better season. So
13 is Tyrese Maxey on this list. 12 is Jalen Brunson. 11 is Jalen Brown. I think 11 is low for Jalen Brown.
yeah, really low. We were just talking about this as a Boston bias site to a degree too. That is really low for Jalen Brown.
Yeah, that caught me off guard too. So we'll rip through this last. 10, they have Donovan Mitchell. 9, they have Cade Cunningham. 8, they have Steph Curry. I'm probably bumping Jalen Brown above each of those names, I think.
Yeah. Maybe not Cade. Cade's been just unbelievable.
It's
But
close.
I put Cade and Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brown to me are all having better seasons than Steph Curry. And Steph, he's dealt with a lot, injuries, roster moves,
And played
Jimmy
well.
Butler injury. Yeah, he's played well. Like he's still top 10 to 12 player. It's not about Steph Curry. It's about those guys who have been playing so well. I have them above Steph right now.
Yeah, I think that is all fair. 7 is Kawhi. 6 is Ant Edwards. 5 is Giannis. 4 is Luka. 3 is Wemby. 2 is SGA. And 1 is Jokic.
One Wemby is just insane. And we can get into a deeper Wemby dive soon, but like the hype for Wemby is this guy better be Michael Jordan and he better be LeBron James. And
I
it's
don't know
just
how
like,
you can act like he hasn't lived up to every.
no, he definitely has lived up to the expectation, but the expectation continues to elevate. He's not the third best player in the league. He's just not. And you're going to see it in the playoffs that he's not even close to the third best player in the league. Maybe he's 5, 6. Like I'm still taking right now for my team to build around. I'm taking Anthony Edwards above Wemby. I just am right now. The offensive engine that he is, Wemby can and won't. No, I won't say won't ever be, but he's not right now, and it's hard to imagine him getting there for a while.
Yeah, I guess, we've had this debate plenty of times in plenty of different forms. You just don't value defense at a rate that you have to with Victor Wembanyama. Man, he's a game-changing defensive player.
I completely get that. And I do value defense to an extent, but I know that great offenses and great offensive players matter more in the playoffs than it does as long as you're not a complete defensive liability. Than it does like a Rudy Gobert, who's been the best defender in the league. And I'm not saying
No, he hasn't. He never has. He never has.
He's got 4 defensive player of the years.
Yes, and he's never been the best defensive player in the league. He's always been a flawed defender. Like Victor Wembanyama is a miles better defender than Rudy.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But the point is about how much we value defense versus offense. When Rudy Gobert has been the best or one of the best, most impactful, if you want to say. Everything points to it. The on-off numbers, everything.
Yes.
But he has been that impactful because it's hard to score on the rim at him. Like that's just true. It's hard to score at the rim against Rudy Gobert. And in a lot of playoff series, he's been played off the floor. And some of that is because he's bad offensively too over those seasons. But still, like that defensive impact doesn't translate to the postseason, which is why I'll always value offense, at least offensive players over defense.
I will leave you with this. These are the players that I'm taking over Luka Doncic if I'm starting my franchise right now. Nikola Jokic, SGA, Giannis, Victor Wembanyama, Anthony Edwards, Kawhi Leonard.
Come on. You're not starting a franchise with Kawhi Leonard over Luka.
I guess that's fair. He's better. I think he's better. I think he plays more winning basketball.
Right now, you can say he's having a better season. You're not starting a franchise.
I'm officially team Luka Doncic is not a top 5 player in the NBA right now.
I think you're wrong. We're still talking about a guy who's leading the league in scoring.
You're right. He's great. But that's going to do it for us today. We did dive into a lot.
2 things I want to hit on next episode. I'm forgetting one right now, but Calvin Booth.
I did just see that. I want to watch the full pod. I
watched it when I woke up this morning. It was good. Kevin O'Connor did a great job interviewing, by the way, poking, asking the right questions, and sometimes Calvin Booth was reluctant to answer them. And Kevin O'Connor continued to poke. He had a lot of interesting comments about the departure, his relationship with Michael Malone. It's worth hitting on. One of the things he said was that he thought there was a lot of reasons, so this will get clipped and it'll make him look bad. But he did say it. He said, I made the job look too easy.
That's the only clip I saw. So I saw that not too long before here.
But he downplayed the rift too with him and Michael Malone, which was just what he's just going to do. That obviously the tensions were very high between those two. But it is interesting looking at that now and kind of just thinking about how well he drafted and didn't really get credit for at the time because it was like, all right, they won a championship his first year as the executive, and he didn't build that team. He didn't bring in Aaron Gordon or Jamal Murray or Jokic, didn't draft Jokic, obviously. That was Tim Connolly who went to the Wolves.
Yeah.
So people didn't credit him for that. But since then, Peyton Watson, rising star in this league, drafted him. Spencer Jones, two-way guy that he signed. Colin Gillespie was a two-way guy that he signed. Obviously, balling out for the Suns right now. Jalen Pickett was an unheralded prospect that I forgot if he was late second round or two-way guy, who's a rotation player now, is huge this season when the Nuggets have dealt with all these injuries. There's a couple other guys that I'm forgetting in the draft. Julian Strawther's had some good moments, but he's looked vindicated in a lot of ways with how well he's drafted. And Mike Malone was hesitant to play a lot of those guys, which is where the point of contention really lied.
Yeah, it is interesting. I do got to give that a listen right there, but I did just see that brief clip and wanted to give the full context of everything that was said before we discussed that. But it is interesting to peek behind the curtain. Shout out to Kevin O'Connor for putting that together. Any other final thoughts before we sign off here?
I don't think so. There's a topic I want to discuss for next episode, but I can't remember it now, so I'll text you when I remember.
All right, well, we will get into that, but appreciate everyone for rocking with us today. Make sure to smash that subscribe button wherever you're listening at, hitting a like, following us on socials, and me and Sam will be back next time right here on the Pace and Space podcast. Peace.